People still talk about that night at the KBS Drama Awards in early 2024, when the lights dimmed and Lee Soon Jae slowly walked onto the stage. At the time, no one in the audience realized they were witnessing something far more meaningful than a simple award speech. They were watching a moment that would later feel like a quiet farewell. His steps were steady but careful, the kind of careful that only those who have lived a long, full life truly understand. And when he looked out at the audience, there was a softness in his eyes that many brushed aside, thinking it was just emotion from winning. But what people missed that night was a small detail, almost invisible unless you look back with the weight of hindsight. There was a pause before he spoke, a long breath, as if he was gathering something deeper than words. And that detail, that breath, would end up changing the way people remembered this moment. In the months that followed, fans would rewind this scene again and again, searching for clues they had overlooked. And the question slowly formed. Was he trying to tell us something that night?
To understand why that moment touched so many people, you have to understand the kind of man Lee Soon Jae was. He was never the type of actor who chased the spotlight or tried to stay young forever. Instead, he carried himself the way many people remember their own fathers or grandfathers, with a gentle patience that made you feel safe just watching him on screen. For more than 60 years, he worked in almost every corner of the entertainment world. Theater, television dramas, family sitcoms, quiet character roles, emotional supporting roles, and even the kind of warm, funny grandfather figures that made audiences feel like they had known him their whole lives. What people outside Korea often do not realize is that he started as a theater actor, long before fame, long before he became a household name across Asia. And even when he reached the age when most people step away from their careers, he kept working, kept showing up, kept giving everything he had. It was not because he needed the fame, it was because the work itself mattered to him. The connection with the audience mattered to him. But behind that dedication, there were signs that not everything was as steady as it appeared. His health had been slipping quietly, and the people closest to him had noticed the changes. Still, he continued, as if he felt a responsibility to be there for the viewers who had grown up with him. At this point in his story, I would love to hear your thoughts. What is the moment or role of his that left the deepest impression on you? Feel free to share in the comments.
When people look back at that award night now, they often say the same thing. They did not fully understand what they were seeing until it was too late. The room had felt emotional, almost unusually emotional, even for an award show. Actors who had worked with him before wiped their eyes as soon as he began speaking. Younger stars who barely knew him were suddenly glassy-eyed. Many viewers watching from home wondered why everyone seemed so overwhelmed. At the time, it looked like the moment had simply touched their hearts. But after his passing, people began to piece together what had really been happening. The heart of it all was his speech. The words were simple, but they carried a weight that no one caught in the moment. When he said, "I have lived a long life, and someday moments like this come," the audience laughed softly, thinking it was his humble way of speaking. When he added that he had always been prepared for the day this opportunity would arrive, most people assumed he meant the award itself. But now, that line feels different. It feels like a man quietly acknowledging that time was closing in. And then there was the pause, that breath he took before continuing. It was not just a man collecting his thoughts. It was a man who understood something the rest of the room did not. Only a few weeks after the ceremony, he began canceling appearances because of sudden health problems. Reports mentioned exhaustion, then weakness, then the need for rest. Fans worried, but they did not imagine anything serious. After all, he had always bounced back before. He had always seemed unstoppable. But by the middle of the year, people close to him noticed a real change. His strength was fading. His voice was softer. His movements slower. And that is when many began to remember that moment on stage, that last speech, and wondered if he had felt it coming. When the news of his passing was announced months later, the first thing many people did was search for the video of that award speech. They watched it again, again, and again. And almost everyone said the same thing. He was saying goodbye. We just did not know it at the time.
The news of his passing spread across Korea in just a few minutes, and within an hour, it reached fans around the world. It felt as if the entire country paused. Television networks changed their schedules. Morning shows delivered the news in quiet, respectful voices. Social media filled with messages from people of all ages, many calling him the grandfather of the nation. Actors who grew up watching him on television shared long memories about how he shaped their dreams. Younger stars, the ones who used to watch him from backstage with admiration, wrote messages saying they could not believe the world would now have to move forward without him. Even comedians and variety hosts, who rarely show their emotions publicly, posted photos of him with simple captions that spoke more loudly than any long message could. The most striking reaction came from everyday viewers. Many said it felt like losing a family member. That was the impact he had. His warmth reached people who had never met him, people who only saw him through a screen, yet felt a personal connection to him. And for many older viewers, his roles had become a constant presence in their homes over decades. Government officials also expressed condolences, honoring him not only as an actor, but as a cultural figure who shaped generations. And in communities around Asia, fans gathered online to revisit his most meaningful performances, sharing clips that suddenly felt heavier now that he was gone. Through all these reactions, one thing became clear. His passing was not just the loss of an actor. It was the loss of a comforting presence that had stayed with millions for most of their lives. As people continued to share memories and clips of his work, a clearer picture of Lee Soon Jae's legacy began to emerge. It was not just about the awards or the decades of acting. It was about the way he made people feel. He never tried to appear larger than life. Instead, he played his roles with a kind of gentle honesty that reminded viewers of someone they knew, someone they trusted. And that is why, even now, his presence still feels close. For many older viewers, especially those who watched him through different stages of their own lives, his performances became more than entertainment. They were reminders of changing times, moments shared with family, and the comfort of familiar faces on screen. And even for younger generations, he represented a kind of stability that is rare in today's fast-moving world. There was nothing flashy or dramatic about him. He simply showed up, did his work with dedication, and stayed true to who he was. His final public appearance, the one that many now consider a quiet farewell, reflects what he stood for: grace, humility, and a deep respect for his craft. He proved that passion does not fade with age, and that a person can continue touching hearts long after the spotlight shifts to someone new. Remembering him should not come with only sadness. It should come with gratitude for the warmth he shared and the lessons he left behind. And maybe the greatest one is this: we are never too old to keep doing what we love, and never too late to make a lasting impact on the people around us. This video was created based on recent information from social media and online reactions, with a few added details to keep the story flowing naturally. There is no intention to mislead anyone. If you notice anything that should be corrected, please let us know in the comments. And if you would like to stay updated with the latest news, please remember to like, share, and subscribe.